In this edition of our monthly brand identity review, we've got 5 projects from some of the biggest brand designers on the planet and some smaller studios too. Let's go! Hello friends, my name is Matt Brunton. I'm here in the north of England with this month's review of 5 brilliant brand identities, or I should say they're mainly brilliant. There's 1 or 2 that I think are nearly there, not quite. Let me know what you think down in the comments. But appreciating design excellence is such a great way to cultivate your taste. And that's really important because your taste is one of the primary things you're going to be hired for as a designer. So let's jump in. First up, we're going to Pentagram, one of the big boys, and partner Michael Beirut, who is one of the best known identity designers on the planet. He was mentored by the OG, the late great Massimo Vignelli, and this identity is for the International Center of Photography in New York City, which is the world's leading institution dedicated to photography and visual culture, even if they do say so themselves. So what do you do with such a brilliant logo as this? You're looking at basically the original logo, which was designed in the 1970s. This ICP in these big, heavy, thick, brutalist form. I love it. Well, what they have done, as you can see at the bottom, it says it's no longer just a square. They've reframed it so it can change into any aspect ratio, and they've very carefully drawn it and created this system so that all the counters and negative spaces are correct at different sizes and different aspects, so it always looks good. And I think this is a really smart solution because if you think about it, since the 1970s we've had the advent of digital design, and designs need to be much more flexible. So by creating a dynamic logo out of the existing one, they've retained the brand equity but made something that works for today. This came out last year actually, but Pentagram have just recently uploaded this case study, which is why we're talking about it now. And the main takeaway is definitely this dynamic logo. Beyond that, they've added in this serif typeface, easy for me to say, which has its roots in journalism, designed for newspapers and magazines. So they say it links with the editorial history of photography. Maybe. It just looks really nice, in my opinion. I like how they've also used the forms from the logo in this headline face. I think for short words like Cuba, it works. For long words, it's going to be illegible, but it works here. So you can see they've got a sans and a serif, which they use very nicely together. Here we go, Publico Roman. It's from Commercial Type if you want to check that out. And these applications, very simple. We see a little bit of color here, but a lot of it is black and white. And that makes sense because this is for a photography institution. So you want the photography to shine through and not be overwhelmed. So crazy colors and patterns and whatnot, not the order of the day. It's not necessary. So they've restrained themselves, which I think is admirable. You can see some of the icons here are using similar brutalist forms. Just really simple, really elegant, good use of white space. I love ICP. I heart ICP. Can you get away with this? I don't think I could. Perhaps because it's in New York, so that I love NY slogan, the famous Milton Glaser logo. They maybe can, but I wouldn't do it if I were you. But it's just a smart solution and a good restrained identity. So I don't need to say good work to Michael Beirut, do I? Because we know it's always going to be solid, right? The next project is for Squirrels, who are a new branch of the Scouts for age 4 to 5-year-old children. Now, the Scouts, for those who don't know, is an international youth organization which has these groups that meet up and they do a lot of outdoor adventure type activities. It's very well known in the UK and I believe it's all over the world. And this Squirrel S logo that you see on the left is a brilliant icon design that I saw doing the rounds a few weeks ago. It was everywhere and for good reason. This is beautifully proportioned. They've really been careful here to draw something that works so well. Squirrels are everywhere in the UK and this definitely looks like a squirrel, but it's still very legible as an S and it's friendly and it's got the right sort of appeal for 4 and 5-year-olds. I have kids that are about this age and I dig this. This is a great solution. This is from a studio called Supple Studio in the UK and I really want to just focus on the icon and the word mark, although the applications are good too. You see it here as a word mark amongst the other Scout organisations. So this is how you go up in ages, from Squirrels the youngest to Network the eldest. And these are the word marks. Are none too clever, are they? I think these guys at Supple have just got themselves a job doing 5 more identity design projects, because some of these are either rudimentary or kind of ugly, and the Squirrels one really stands out as being far better. Beautiful photography. I love the grading here. It just makes everything consistent, gives it its own unique look. It really brings it down as well to the level of the children and their activity and the work. Great sense of perspective in this photography. Really admire this work. They also bring in other colours as well as this kind of rusty red to make it colourful, playful. I think this is great because it appeals to young children, but it doesn't look childish in the sense of being rudimentary. It's really professional, well executed, gives good confidence to parents, but at the same time is appealing to children. So I love that. I think these guys have done a great job. You see patination, all this kind of thing, but most of all, let's just admire this S icon. How good is that going to look on an avatar? How good is that going to look on merch? Fantastic job. Okay, the next project is for Park Lane Hotel in New York. Now, on the left is the before, and this is exactly what you might expect from an uptown high-end hotel in New York. This could be the Ritz, it could be the Plaza. You would expect this kind of thing. They've got this script lockup at the top. Then it repeats in this serif, which is in all caps or small caps. And it's kind of clunky. And this is similar to what was on the outside of the building. I really don't like this small caps in particular. This York isn't kerned very well. And especially when it goes smaller for the New York, the N being a little bit taller than the EW, the Y being a little bit taller than the ORK, it's kind of a mess. But wow, this new solution is bold, it is brave, it is not old school luxury. And this is by Mother, who are one of the biggest brand design agencies in the United States. I believe they've got a London office as well. And you can see what they've said here. Their description is an iconic hotel redefines uptown luxury. It's easy when you design for any category to fall into the tropes, the cliches that everybody does. And I really encourage you to try and find a way to express category while else breaking out of the cliches. So they've not gone for the old school luxury. They've positioned this as luxurious but modern and contemporary. This word mark is very interesting. What is this? Art Deco? Art Nouveau? I like how these A's are separate. When you're designing a word mark, you need to customize it, not just type out a font, particularly if it's just a word mark, no supporting icon. And by having the A's different, that's a great way to make sure it's clear that this is something custom. Obviously, this whole thing has been drawn custom. One thing that I don't like are these terminals that are like leaves on the K, the L, the E, you see them as well. I think the other characters are well drawn, but these terminals are a little bit fussy. But overall, credit to them for trying something confident and radical and different. And that kind of comes through. It is well executed in the main. I like these flower textures before, and again, the grading, the particular dark contrasted look here. I like that. I think it's neatly done. They've gone for this duotone patterns a lot, and I'm not sure about that, because I think actually these kind of fairy tale illustrations you see on the left and right here, these Instagram stories, they are attractive, work really well. You can see they're in this wallpaper of the new interior design, and they've actually animated one of them here, and that makes it quite interesting. It's a dreamlike quality, and that's something which is a lot more unique. So it's good to bring in a little bit of uniqueness, personality in there. Again, the numerals, I like how they've done a numeral set, but I'm not quite sure. I think it gets a little bit fussy, but the proportions in general I like. Again, this kind of sharp edge on this O here, can you see that around there? I've just drawn over it. Here, it's not quite right for me. I'm a bit surprised by this, because Mother are very, very legit, one of the big boys. And again, this monogram, this PL, how this is just elongated, it's kind of an ugly proportion. Overall, though, I want to give them a round of applause for being brave and doing something with personality and not just falling into the cliches of old school luxury. Okay, 2 more I want to look at quickly. The first one is for a baseball team. Found this on Brand New. Let's look at it a bit bigger. It's the Winnipeg Goldeyes. Now, the one on the left is what you might expect for a sports team mascot, kind of aggressive, but they've realized that using this sort of illustration style that's very detailed and naturalistic illustration doesn't often work well for logos. So they've tried to, well, they have updated it, and I can understand what they've done. It's drawn well, it's absolutely fine, but for me, it doesn't really express the personality of a sports team. You either want some sense of tradition or some sense of aggression, in my mind, but we don't really have that here. Yes, it's a clever way of bringing in the fish tail, so it makes a G in the middle, and they've got this kind of baseball stitching in there, but I think this looks like, if you take out the baseball stitching, it could be a fish restaurant or a fish market or something like that. And I don't really think it says sports team. This merch, for me, would that really appeal to young kids? I'm not sure really about this. It looks like it could be a shopping mall or something like that. But there was this little thing hidden. You probably didn't see as I scroll by up here. This guy. Now, I've actually just brought him into Photoshop so we can have a look at him. It's kind of small, but we could maybe zoom into that a little bit. If I do it, it's a little bit pixelated, but this has the aggression. It's simplified the illustration, but it's something that really works as a mascot, and I think that on a hat is going to look much better. It's going to be much more appealing, and it's much more appropriate to what you're designing for. So that's such an important thing with identity design. It has to be appropriate, and we can't just, you know, say, oh, we've got something that's too detailed and fussy, let's simplify it. Okay, you've done that, you've created this smart little solution, but does it really fit with the team? I'm not sure. I think this guy is the solution they were actually looking for, and they need to put this to the front, not the G roundel badge. So let's look at an icon that has been done very well. This is a final project, and this is for exposure. And you can see on the left the original symbol, and on the right the updated one. And this for me is a thing of beauty. This is done by Diction. And I really recommend reading this Medium article. We'll put a link to it down in the description because it's funny. These guys have got a sense of humor, and they don't take themselves too seriously. They've thrown in these, what they call meaningless shapes, part of their exploration project. But Exposure is a photography platform, so you expect the photography examples included to be beautiful, and they are. Come on, we got shots of Petra here and the Golden Gate Bridge. But you can see how this identity works really well alongside. I'm just going to scroll through a little bit, because here we've got the before and the after. And the before on the top could be any old tech company, but the second one is class. It's class, it's quality. They've used century-old style. I mean, legends. Like, they've not gone for some, you know, the typical sans for a tech company, or one of these really trendy modern serifs from a little boutique type foundry. They're like, nah, century-old style. It's got the fundamentals. It'll work well. They make some really good points here, like about how the high X height makes it work really well on screens. It's easy to read in digital settings, but it's just really nicely typeset with this tight kerning. It pairs well with this icon, and you see here when it's overlaid over photography, it's just beautiful. It really elevates. I want to put my photos on this platform. How about you? I think they've done a great job with it. Finally, these layouts here. I mean, this is right up my street. Just lovely proportioned, great balance, and very elegant looking. So I really love this whole icon design. I mean, people say get a pin badge of it, get a t-shirt. You should get a tattoo of that. Tell your mum I said it was fine. I just think that is beautiful. I'm not sure about these 3D animations. I mean, they're well executed, but for me, it just takes away from when your eye completes the 3D-ness, when you just look at the flat symbol. I think it's much better just in flat, but great work here. So hope you enjoyed these. If you did, we're building up quite a library now of monthly reviews of brand designs and web designs. Rand's done a whole bunch of those, so check them out on the channel and hang around. We'll talk to you next time, and before then, happy designing.